Raider Nation, what's going on? Good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, with some Raiders news and I'll call it juicy NFL rumors that I feel like that you guys need to know. Maxx Crosby had some interesting words to say over the weekend, and if you didn't see some of the things that he said about the Raiders, about his future, we're just going to hit the nail on the head there from the jump. NFL Combine news and notes. The Chat Sports team literally is heading to Indy right now as I speak. They are getting ready for a 15-hour drive. So if you want a lot of NFL Combine content, this is going to be a week that we're going to give you a lot here at the Raiders Report. The Matthew Stafford trade situation is an interesting one. Some more updates that we got over the weekend. And then the Vikings quarterback situation is one that we have to revisit because from what I was told over the weekend, the Raiders are really paying close attention to what the Minnesota Vikings do with Sam Darnold and maybe even J.J. McCarthy. Hey, man, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everybody for all the birthday wishes. It was amazing. Over the weekend, I got to spend 3 days with my dad, which I have not been able to do in quite some time. From the bottom of my heart, my dad said that he had a great time last Thursday on my birthday, and I really do appreciate all the birthday wishes. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. It's going to be a busy week this week around the Raiders, and it's going to be a busy week around the entire NFL. And essentially what this video is everything that I think a Raiders fan needs to know about all the news that has happened over the weekend and any of the little maybe updates that we've gotten here today. Like one of the updates that we just got was around the NFL Combine, and we'll talk about what that is here in a moment. All right, first off, though, Maxx Crosby was honored at the Commitment to Excellence Award dinner. And this was on Saturday, February 22nd. I really actually tried to get out there to this event, but because my dad was in town, I was unable to make it. But one of the things that he said was that he wants to win with the Raiders. And if you listen to everything Crosby said, he talks a lot about injuries and how, you know, people are doubting him. And when you have the mental fortitude to be able to create that you are always like fighting to be number one, that's honestly like what the greats do. Like Tom Brady has done it. Kobe did it. Michael did it. You know, you got to always like put the world against you type of mentality. And when you listen to Max, he finds every single reason to motivate himself. And, you know, I think that there's a lot of worry that the Raiders are going to lose Crosby this offseason. I'm not going to lie. I'm not really worried about it. I know he wants to be a Raider. I know the Raiders want to keep him. And everything that this organization is trying to do is to bring back Maxx Crosby because it's what the plan is, you know, for the long haul. I don't know exactly what the money's going to look like. I'm not going to lie. I was told something over the weekend that made me think a little bit because I've been in the idea that no matter what, it's going to be 31, 32, you know, $30 million north. Not saying that it's not going to happen, but depending on the length of that contract could impact if it's over $30 million or not. Again, I'm very confident that he is going to get north of $30 million a year, and it's going to be a 3 to 5 year type of contract. Again, he's still got 2 years left on his deal, but there's no guaranteed. The Maxx Crosby situation is going to be one that makes a lot of people nervous, but I did a video last week talking about the importance of, you know, the date March 11th to Max. And until that date happens, and I get it, if we're waiting until then to get a Crosby contract extension, I'm going to have silver and gray hair by that time. But it sounded like this weekend he does still want to be a Raider, and that's where we're going to happen. As soon as the Raiders decide to give him a contract extension, I will do my best to get live ASAP Rocky. But for the Raiders, they're working on it. Crosby wants to get it done. I'm hoping that it is only a matter of time. Maybe it happens at the NFL Combine this week. Who knows? Speaking of which, let's talk about the Combine. I can't wait. This is when we get to start seeing some of these draft prospects. And for those that don't know, it's 329 overall prospects. Thursday is going to be the defensive line and linebackers. Friday is DBs and tight ends. Saturday, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. That's a really important day for the Raiders. And then Sunday, you know, on the offensive line, that's another very important day. I think one of the things that I'll do on the Raiders Report is I'll break down, you know, players to watch on Thursday, players to watch on Friday, players to watch on Saturday, players to watch on Sunday. Those are going to be some videos that I'll put out throughout the week. From the Raiders standpoint, John Spytek, he's going to speak to the media Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then Pete Carroll, he's going to speak to the media at 2 p.m. Eastern time at the Combine. If there are any questions that anybody wants us to ask, you know, Pete, if you want us to ask any questions to John, I'm not going to be in Indy, but we are sending, I believe it's like 8 to 9 of our Chat Sports guys. And, since I'm one of the OGs here, we're going to be at the Pete Carroll and John Spytek press conference. So essentially, if there's any questions that you want us to ask Pete or you want us to ask John, please let us know down below what those could be. It could be draft related. It could be free agency related. It could be quarterback related. It could be Maxx Crosby related. Any question that you got, let me know down below. I will send these questions, my favorites, to the team. Obviously, I can't guarantee that they're going to be all asked, but we do have the opportunity to sit down and talk to Spytek and Carroll, which we don't always have the opportunity to, and we're going to get some good questions out of it. So please, seriously, let me know some questions down below. Coming up next here, let's talk about Matthew Stafford, and I also want to talk about the Vikings quarterback situation. I'm first going to start with Stafford because according to Albert Breer, and this one came out, I want to say it was maybe on Friday, that the Rams have given Stafford permission to seek a new trade partner. And the fact that he's got 2 years left on his deal, and when you really look at the Matthew Stafford trade, like if he were to be dealt, for the Rams to move on from him, there's got to be more to this. And I say that because, and I've said this 100 times on this show, if the Rams trade Stafford, it's going to cost them $45.3 million, and they save 4.3, or they pay him $49 million and he plays on the team. So either it's $49 million, he's a Ram, or they're going to pay him $45 million to go somewhere else. The only way that a team ends up doing that type of trade is if Stafford wants to go elsewhere and if the Rams are really trying to move on from Stafford. So knowing that, it makes me wonder if the trade is not going to be nearly as much as what we originally thought. So with what's interesting in some of the notes that Albert Breer wrote, is he wrote that Stafford wants a new deal. Because Stafford wants a new deal and because the Rams, again, are technically going to have to pay him this year, that tells me Los Angeles is not interested in a long-term deal with Stafford, which means whoever could potentially trade for him, I think that the value is going to be there, where, it was reported that the Rams are looking for a first-round pick. Here's the thing. For the Rams to be saying they're looking for a first-round pick but also be willing to eat that money, 2 and 2 don't really go together. And now you're starting to see some more reports around the Rams and, Stafford being a little bit more open to having this separation. On top of that, and this is, something that people just don't always talk about, it's Stafford's wife. And, Stafford's wife has been very vocal this offseason about her being more than okay moving out of Los Angeles and her trying to find a, brand new spot for Stafford if that's the way that they do it. But whatever team ends up making a deal for Stafford, you're going to have to pay him $50 million per year. For a team like the Raiders and, Pete Carroll, he's on a 3-year window with the potential to be a 4th year. John Spytek's in that 5th year. If you're the Raiders and you don't love a lot of the quarterback options that are coming out of the combine, which there's some interesting names to talk about. Kyle McCord continues to be a name that I get hit with of, hey, watch this guy. Tyler Shugg is another one that I keep getting hit by of, hey, watch this kid from Louisville. Shedeur's not throwing, which doesn't really surprise me considering the fact that Deion said Shedeur's going to throw at Colorado's Pro Day with 4 draft-eligible wide receivers. I think people are going to look at that and like, oh, Shedeur doesn't want to go out there and compete. I think the whole thing has been with Deion is he's trying to build a program at Colorado, and he's also going to try to figure out a way to get more players drafted. And he knows if Shedeur doesn't throw at the combine, but if he throws at his pro day, there's going to be a lot more scouts there, a lot more opportunities for his program to continue to build. So I'm not going to lie, I'm not really going to overread the Shedeur not throwing at the combine thing or not participating because, quite frankly, I never expected that he was going to do it in the first place because I knew that he wasn't going to test well. So instead of him, not being the greatest athlete, because he's going to go out there and test, and he would not do well compared to, I think, some of these other top quarterback prospects that we're talking about, and even some of the non-top ones where Will Howard's probably a better athlete, right? Kyle McCord might be a better athlete. Jalen Milroe's definitely a better athlete. Jackson Dart's definitely a better athlete, where those type of things would come into play for certain coaches. And I'm kind of getting off tangent here. My point with going down that whole rabbit hole was if you're the Raiders and you don't love any of these quarterback prospects, right? And when I say love, I mean love them at their price, because maybe you like Shedeur, but you don't like Shedeur at number 6 overall. The Raiders might like Jackson Dart, but what happens if you have to trade back up in round 1 to get him? Raiders might like a Jalen Milroe, but what if they don't want to take him at number 2, right? These type of situations and conversations happen all the time. So if you already know that you might run into that situation, You go out, you trade for a Matthew Stafford. From what I think right now, based on the reports, I don't think it's going to cost you a first. Hell, I don't even know if it's going to cost you a second. If you're the Raiders and you're able to get Stafford for a third-round pick, whether it's pick 68 or pick, 73, if you will, no matter what it might be, that's a trade that you have to explore for Stafford. Because the moment you trade for Matthew, and I get it, he's up there in age, he's going to be 37 years old, you pair him with Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Tom Brady, Greg Olsen, Chip Kelly. I mean, that's an offense that this team can compete right away. And I mean it. Like, with the amount of salary cap space we have, with the amount of draft picks that we have, with this coaching staff, I really think that the Raiders could go out there and they could compete right away. And maybe that's what this team's trying to do. They're trying to go out there and they're trying to compete right away. And out of all the quarterbacks from free agency, whether it's Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, we could throw out names like Kirk Cousins that might be on the market. Geno Smith might be on the market. Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the market. Matthew Stafford gives you the best chance to win this year. And I don't really care what anybody says. Matthew Stafford gives you the best chance to win this year. And if you feel that that's the truth and you feel like that you can get a year or two out of him, maybe 3, and that allow him to be that bridge until that next quarterback gets in, I'm just saying, it's a very, very interesting idea. But the Matthew Stafford rumors need to be paid a lot closer attention to just because of all the smoke that is going on around Stafford, around the Rams, and even the Raiders. But the Raiders aren't the only team that is interested. And according to Breer, right now there's 4 teams showing a lot of interest. The Giants, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Raiders are the teams that are showing the most interest to Stafford. I mean, the Browns pick 2, the Giants pick 3, the Raiders pick 6, and then obviously the Steelers are way down there. I think the Steelers are a team that they're poking around in a lot of vets. The name that I continuously hear with the Steelers is Aaron Rodgers. But for the Giants and Browns to also be interested in Stafford kind of tells me that they might not love the quarterbacks that are about to hit the 2025 NFL draft. All right, we got one more thing to talk about here, and then I'm going to get the heck out of here. It's the Vikings quarterback situation. So this is another one where we just got to pay a lot closer attention to, and including myself, for the Minnesota Vikings, they could franchise tag Sam Darnold. This is a rumor that we've heard, for a week or two, but it's really starting to pick up steam, especially over the weekend. And what's interesting about that is if Minnesota is willing to franchise tag Darnold, they're going to pay him $41.3 million this year. When I see that, I think, okay, $41.3 million is the maximum amount of money Sam Darnold is going to get per year. And I say that because usually when a player gets a 1-year deal, right, or when a player signs a franchise tag, that 1 year is worth more than, if a player were to sign a contract that's 3-4 year deal, right? Like the 1-year franchise tag is paying a player a little bit more money 1 year, like per year, 41.3. If the Vikings are unwilling to tag Darnold at 41.3, that tells me that they don't value him on a 1-year, $41.3 million deal, which, you can argue is because of J.J. McCarthy. It's maybe because they're trying to go a little bit of a different direction. But if they are trying to go in a different direction, I think the Raiders then got to know that you're not going to have to pay him 41.3, which it still sounds like a very high number, but the fact that the salary cap went up, I would still be curious to see if we get this like quarterback-only salary cap, which was rumored last offseason, which would be perfect for the Raiders and all these teams that are trying to pay these quarterbacks this crazy amount of money. However, though, if the Vikings say no to Sam Darnold, 41.3, if I'm the Raiders, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to have to give you 41.3. That drops your value down probably somewhere in that $35 to $40 million range. I would like to get Darnold a little bit cheaper than that, but the fact that the salary cap is projected to go up yet again, to get a quarterback like Darnold, I think it's going to cost $35 million based on, what's out there being reported. If the Vikings do end up franchise tagging Darnold, well, that means then 41.3, if the Raiders would want Darnold, they'd have to give up 2 first-round picks. That ain't going to happen. So knowing that you're not going to give up 2 first-round picks, would you be potentially willing to give up a first-round pick for J.J. McCarthy? Because I talked about McCarthy at the end of December, and it was a name that was brought to my attention of, hey, this is somebody that's on Tom Brady's radar. This is somebody that is on Mark Davis's radar, and it's somebody that, you need to consider. So if, for a while it was Darnold's leaving, the Vikings are keeping J.J. But now all of a sudden they might end up keeping Darnold, and they might also end up keeping J.J. McCarthy. if you're the Raiders and the Vikings tag Darnold, you got to pick up the phone and you at least got to call and see what the price tag is for McCarthy. Maybe he's available, maybe he isn't. But if it's only the 6th overall pick, you got to entertain that idea. And this is coming from somebody that when J.J. was first coming out, I was like, I don't know if he's a player that I like. He doesn't have a lot of the growth that I want to see. After watching what Sam Darnold looked like 1 year with Kevin O'Connell's system and having McCarthy learn underneath Darnold, learn underneath Kevin O'Connell for a year, that's an interesting risk to me. No matter what, there's going to be risk involved in the quarterback situation for the Raiders. And when I talk to a lot of Raiders fans, and even myself included, the safest path in a lot of ways seems to just take a quarterback at number 6 or just take a quarterback where you don't have to trade up. If I asked you right now, would you take J.J. McCarthy if he was in this year's draft at number 6? I think everybody under the sun would go, yeah, that's a player that the Raiders should take at number 6, and I agree with it. So the fact that he's so young, the fact that he's got Tom Brady connections, I'm telling you right now, if the Vikings franchise tag Sam Darnold, the Raiders are going to show a lot more interest in J.J. McCarthy, but they won't be the only team. There will be other teams out there looking at J.J. McCarthy as being a potential option. All right, y'all, I'm getting on out of here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Again, I'm going to be live tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. You will get videos around John Spytek and Pete Carroll at the NFL Combine, so make sure you subscribe for that. And then if you're looking for more Combine videos from me, from the Raiders Report, this is going to be a really, really important week for all that. Again, appreciate all the birthday wishes. I could not be more happy of all the relationships that we've been able to build here on this channel. Stay tuned. You better have given me some questions down below to ask Spytek and Carroll. NFL Combine, man. It's kind of crazy, but it's already here. For more videos around the Las Vegas Raiders, click the subscribe button right here. I promise you, I'm going to keep you up to date. If you're looking for even more content around the silver and black, you can click this button right here for more content, or you can go ahead and click this one right here. Bottom line, we put out a video every single day, and we've done so for the last 5 years. Make sure you subscribe.